manejar o conducir, the Spanish words for to drive. And good morning, and welcome to another beautiful day here in Ecuador. Today, we're talking about speed bumps and driving here in Ecuador. How are the roads? Should you come here and learn how to drive?
Oh boy.
How do you get a driver's license? All of these things we're going to be talking about here in this video today. The roads, the driving here in Ecuador. Is it worth it to rent a car? Well, that's a great question. Let's dive into it. So here's your first thing you need to know. In Ecuador and a lot of Latin America, you're going to have stick shift cars. And not all cars are stick shift, but if you rent a car, you're going to want to make sure that you're getting an automatic. So at the airport, all of our friends, they can get an automatic. There's no problem. But sometimes if you go to a different car rental agency, or if you're just not careful, even at the airport, you can get a stick shift, because these are the typical cars that you'll get here in Ecuador and almost all of Latin America, frankly. So be careful, because if you don't know how to drive stick shift, like in the United States, you usually don't have cars with stick shift because they cost more money. You used to a long time ago, but not anymore. So be careful with the old stick shift and getting an automatic or a fun manual car. The other crazy thing about Ecuador is that there are so many potholes. In the United States, everything is very smooth, but if you rent a small car, you might have some issues with running into things like, there's just like a huge hole right here, and there's huger potholes that are all over the place. Some things get fixed up, but a lot of things just stay as a big pothole, and they get to know each other for years and years and years. The other thing is that the buses in Latin America are super cheap. So for about 20 cents, 15 cents, you can jump on a bus and go for 30 minutes down the road. And there are bus stops all over the place. So renting a car isn't necessarily a necessity, but it is nice, especially if you have a family or want to go and be on your own and are from the States, quite frankly, where everyone has a car and you usually don't have public transportation. So I think that actually having a bus ride, if you live in Quito or are moving to a city, could work out really well. The other thing is that taxis and Ubers are super cheap. So you could go for a taxi or Uber ride for just a couple of dollars to get anywhere in your city. From our house up to Quito is about $10 and a half an hour ride. So for us, sometimes paying $10 so that you don't have to find parking, pay for parking, and make sure that all your stuff is safe, it works out really well. Now I'm getting hit by a bus. All right, now don't get me wrong, not all the roads are like this, or like this with a horse right behind me, but it is the typical road that you're going to drive on. There are nicely paved roads that go up to Quito with potholes and with motorcycles weaving in and out. I think that's the influence from Colombia. It's crazy in Colombia. It's not that bad here, but here there's definitely going to be the motorcycles that weave in and out of traffic and cut you off, and there's going to be a lot of people that honk at you or you honk at them because you don't know what they're doing because they just cut you off. In the United States, you give each person like distance. You give each other distance in the United States to be able to come in and have space on your highway, on your country roads. You never go in right next to somebody. But here in Latin America, typically, even when you sit down, you could have somebody sit right next to you, and that's socially okay. So driving is just like the social activities here. In all of Latin America, you can sit next to somebody right away. But these roads, like what's behind me, and the motorcycles and the small distances on the sides of the roads, that is not necessarily like I had in Chile either. In Chile, I think a lot of the roads, I love that there's a rooster right here. A lot of the roads are actually pretty well done. There are not many potholes. There are some dirt roads yet in places like Linares and things, but it's not very typical. So I think here in Ecuador, that was really hard for me. I mean, here's another road right here. There's a road, here's a road. I mean, it's kind of crazy, like the inclines that right now it's totally easy for me, but it took me a while, and that's after knowing stick shift. So yeah, any direction, going up or going straight down. And that's why there are so many of these speed bumps. Apparently a few years ago there were not many speed bumps, but now there are, because you could fly down these hills. And if you do, and you hit one of these speed bumps that sometimes are not even yellow, they're just not painted at all, you don't see them, you just have to go slow. Like this one. Who can see this? You can just fly and damage your car. So be very, very, very careful. There's not much written saying like lento, like slow down, like there was in Chile. Here it's just, yeah, good luck. Maybe sometimes somebody will write something on the road or write something as a sign, but a lot of the times there aren't signs. And sometimes the semáforos, the lights, they don't even work. So there might be a police officer there that waves you through and says, okay, keep going, even though it says red. And sometimes they just don't even work. So driving here can be, now that I think about it, a little bit sketchy. But do you need to necessarily like rent a truck or a big car with big wheels to be here and explore Ecuador? The answer to that is no. A lot of people here actually don't have a big truck. In the United States, the big trucks are really popular. Everybody, not everybody, I wish I had one in the States. A lot of people have big cars in the United States. But here in Ecuador, a lot of people have small, compact cars because they're cheaper and they get you from point A to point B. And I've seen these cars go all the way to the snow up on Cotopaxi, which is this crazy, sketchy, windy road that has just, it's a road like this that has an incline like this, and people get up that thing. So I actually don't think that you need a big truck to get around here. I would love one. I think it would be a lot of fun, but you get by just fine with it's a Hyundai Tucson, and if you go slow, you can get almost anywhere. I'm not saying you get anywhere, but you get almost anywhere. And in the back of a car, you always have to have a fire extinguisher and a spare tire because, well, with these roads, you're gonna break a tire. The other thing is that when you come here to Ecuador, you have 6 months if you have a driver's license, at least in the United States or probably other countries in Latin America. But if you're coming from the States, you have 6 months, and then after that, you really need to have an Ecuadorian driver's license. So you need to get a ton of paperwork, things from the States like your background check to make sure that you haven't been in any big accidents or problems in the United States, that kind of a thing. You're gonna need some other documents showing that you graduated from high school, and you're gonna need, actually, I don't even think you have to graduate from high school. I think it's just a grade school, technically. We had our university little diplomas and all this kind of stuff to show that. And then you have to take a test in Spanish. I think it should exist in English. We couldn't find it in English. So get a driver's license if you're here for longer than 6 months. All right. Okay, let's talk speed limits, crosswalks, and the dogs that you're constantly trying to not hit while you're driving the car. Speed limits. Speed limits here, yeah, there are speed limits, and especially on the highway, you have to really make sure that you're following the speed limit because there's going to be these little cameras in Ecuador that can check your speed and just give you a ticket online. And then on the small roads like this one right here, you could just fly, except you're not sure if you're gonna hit one of these dogs that are right over here, or a speed bump that isn't even yellow, or a person, because crosswalks, like there's a crosswalk right over there. I didn't even know why there are crosswalks here because nobody uses them. You cross wherever you want to, and it's just like playing Frogger. And you have to be an excellent Frogger game player because here, no cars stop for any crosswalks, and you basically just have to go across halfway and then wait for the next car to go the other way and then cross the other street. It's literally an expert game of Frogger. Now let's talk GPS accuracy. Have you ever seen the episode of The Office where Michael is watching the GPS? This was like 15 years ago. And watching it and following it, and then all of a sudden he goes right into a lake because he's just following the GPS. That's kind of like living here. If you follow the GPS, it might lead you down this dirt road that you can't actually pass by. You might go way up this dirt road and back down, and you might make it, especially if you have a 4x4 truck. But typically, with a typical car, you're not going to make it. So the GPS accuracy, you can use it, but just be careful. Take a look for about 5 minutes before you actually use your GPS if you're renting a car or going somewhere, because it can definitely mislead you and bring you down some pretty sketchy areas that you're not exactly sure why the GPS brought you there, but that's why I need a truck. Just leave in the comments from my wife, I need a truck. Okay, let's talk police and military checkpoints. Sometimes in Ecuador, you're going to get to a place that is a police or a military checkpoint where they basically just check all of your documents, and after they're done checking your documents, you go free. So if you have a US license, sometimes, because I've done this for a couple of months before I got my license here, they are going to check that and say, how long have you been here? And one of the first things that you do when you get here is you try and get your visa, which comes with ID. So they'll ask for your ID, so they'll know how long you've been here. So getting that driver's license is super important because there's going to be so many police checkpoints that are just going to check this. Military checkpoints are actually checking for drugs. So you probably don't have to worry about that, but it is kind of funny, I guess. It was funny for Moses when I went through a military checkpoint, had to get out of my car. He's in the back seat, in the car seat, and I had to put my hands on the car right where he is. So he's looking at me, I have my hands on my car, they had to check my whole body, and then I had to stay like that until they checked the car. While Moses is right inside, kind of laughing at me because he's in a car seat watching me get checked. But it's a typical thing. You don't have to worry if you don't have anything wrong. So it's actually kind of a nice thing, I think, because it shows that Ecuador cares and they're taking care of their country and trying to crack down on some of this criminal activity. So, all right, another motorcycle. Now let's talk about probably the most hysterical thing, I think, of all of the driving topic in Ecuador, and that is parking. There are yellow signs, there's a door, a gate right there that says you cannot park here, and yet somebody parks there. There's yellow on the sides here, and that means usually you shouldn't park there, but you park there. There's a white line here that usually would mean you shouldn't park there, but you can park there. It's basically wherever you have space, you can park. And the part that I don't understand is sometimes people yell at me for parking in these places where everybody is parking, and I just don't understand, because here in Ecuador, you just park wherever there's space. It doesn't matter. I mean, in front of gates, in front of the yellow that's painted here saying no parking, in front of signs that say don't park here. There's people that park there. I think it's kind of funny, actually. I try not to park in those places, but I mean, everybody does it, right? If everybody said to jump off a bridge, would you jump? I guess I would. All right, let's talk about the tolls. So here in Ecuador, tolls are extremely cheap. Maybe 20 cents, 25 cents, up to $1. In Chile, they were like $5 for a toll. But it would last you a good couple of hours because each region had their own tolls. Here in Ecuador, it's almost like every 15 minutes sometimes when you're driving somewhere new, there's going to be a toll for about 20 cents, which is just kind of irritating to me because 20 cents great, but then you have to stop, wait in line every 20 minutes, half an hour to pay another toll. Whereas, in other places like United States, it's all automated. So you just fly through there, they take your ID on your car, and you're set to go. You just keep going. But here, you pay with cash or usually just change. You have to have change in your car in order to go. And another reason you have change in your car is to pay the people who are watching your car. So typically, when you park somewhere, there's going to be somebody, usually in blue, that is going to take care of your car. It doesn't cost much, sometimes 15, 20 cents. You might even just tip them, and it might not be a receipt or something. You just give them 15 or 20 cents for watching your car for an hour or two, or sometimes they'll have you pay beforehand and say, okay, what's the price? And they tell you, and you give them the money, and you're set to go. So just want to look out for those things and bring coins when you're here in Ecuador. Even the little $1 coins, which I love so much. Never use them in the States, but they're $1 coins that you use here in Ecuador. Cool stuff. So I guess the theme here in Ecuador would be expect the unexpected. Here, this street might be closed off for a wedding, for some sort of a festival where they bring somebody down. Somebody may have died and they're carrying the casket, and they do that and you can't get by. You have to wait for them to go by, and you respectfully do, and they go right on by. You just have to expect the unexpected, the potholes, you just don't even follow any speed limit here in most of Ecuador unless you're on the highway where it says, and they have cameras down. Here, you just have to watch out for the potholes. There's not going to be a police officer that's going to flash its lights because they're coming for you. They're flashing their lights because they're always flashing their lights. So I think there are so many different things between the United States and especially here in Ecuador as far as driving. But honestly, after being here for a few years, I've just blended right in. And it's almost harder for me to go to the United States where there are so many rules. And I'll give you an example. I was in Miami driving a rental car, and I got pulled over a couple of years ago because there's a school zone, and I was going 2 over in the school zone. 15 miles an hour, I was going 17, and they gave me a ticket for going 2 over the speed limit. Here, you go slower when students are around and you make sure there's no students, but there's not going to be a police officer that's going to pull you over for going 2 over the speed limit. Also, everything is in kilometers and not miles per hour. All the metric system is here, but if you're traveling outside of the United States, you should know that. It's only the United States that uses miles per hour. All right, I hope that you enjoyed this video for today. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up. Check me out on Instagram and TikTok, gringoylatinojon, and let me know in the comments what you think. What do you prefer? Ecuador and driving through the mountains that are steep on the sides, maybe no railings, or the United States that'll probably always have a railing, and in any national park it'll be all paved. Here, not so much. It's the opposite of that. And honestly, I don't mind it here. Let me know what you think, and we'll see you guys next time. I think I see 5 dogs in the street over there. We'll see you guys next time. But for now, don't get hit. And ciao, Pescado.